let's go to the beginning, because
Sure.
there's a few technical things that are fascinating about your beginning. So you started making films when you were very young.
Yeah.
With an old Super 8 camera, and you were editing on a VCR.
You see, I've met a lot of filmmakers who, they start a certain way, but then they finish another way. They get to be big filmmakers and all that. I still do it that way. Like I like doing things that way. I have a new company called Brass Knuckle Films where the audience can actually participate by investing in this movie, being investors in these movies that are done the same way. They're action films like we did with Mariachi, but 10 to 30 million. It doesn't take a lot of money to start a $1 billion franchise. Like John Wick only cost 20 million, the first one. Second one was 40. Third one was 80. Fourth one was 100 because the audience kept growing and growing.
By the way, you say 20 million, like it's not a lot of money. We should
It's not
mention
for an action film. Yeah.
That's right. But also, we should say that El Mariachi, the film on which the book Rebel Without a Crew is $7,000 movie. So let's put it all in context.
But you're gonna hire bigger actors. You can get
Yes.
a big actor like a Keanu Reeves for a $20 million movie. I asked Jim Cameron, I said, like Terminator cost $5 million. And he goes, I wish we had that much. He had less than $5 million for that. So you can start a $1 billion franchise using these methods. And with the audience investing, they get to make money on them. And this is what I'm gonna say now about how I started. You see that DNA of how I give out, I want people to know how I did things with Rebel Without a Crew or with these methods that I started with. You see, that's how we kept going. Hollywood spends way too much. And when you can make stuff for less, your profit margin is much better. So when I first started, I didn't have any money. So I still play like I don't have money. So I had Super 8. My dad had a Super 8 camera, but I couldn't afford it. I shot 2 rolls that you had to buy the film, shoot 2 minutes. I shot 2 rolls of that. It's another same amount of money that it cost to buy it, whatever that was, $12 or whatever, to develop it. You get it. There's no sound. Most of the shit's out of focus, But then my dad, who sold cookware, had a VCR, one of the first VCRs, home VCRs for the market, that he would play his sales tapes to his salesman. And it came with a camera attached, like this cable you got coming out. Imagine if that had to go into your VCR for you to even see what it's shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this old camera, manual focus, manual iris, and 12-foot cable. And I would start making movies with that instead. Now I have, for $8, I have a 2-hour erasable tape of sound and picture. So I got into digital basically really early. I was doing, which was really frowned upon back then.
Mm-hmm.
And continued to be all the way to when I was using it for real in the early 2000s before everyone realized, oh, that's the future.
Yeah, that's fascinating because you were rebel in that way too, using digital.
Yeah, well, because of the means and the democratizing of that. The elite didn't like that. You could just go make a movie like that. But I started practicing, and it's much easier to practice when it doesn't cost any money. Like if you want to be a rock star, right? If you want to learn how to play guitar really well, you're not going to just jump on stage and suddenly be able to play. You have to practice till your fingers bleed. Well, the same with movies. You got to keep telling stories and cutting them together. And you just can't afford that on film. Nobody can with a 2-minute roll costing as much as a 2-hour tape. So I was doing all these movies. First, I would cut in camera. And that old VCR had a really great pause button that they stopped making, that when you hit pause, it stopped right there. And it stopped with a clean cut. It didn't have all this color bars like the later ones had. So and it had an audio dub feature where you could add another second soundtrack to it. So if I have people talking, I could hit audio dub and add sound effects. So I could have 2 tracks on the same one. So that was my filmmaking kit for a while until I needed to start doing real editing. And my dad bought a second VCR for his business because I stole his other one. And I found that if I hooked them together, I could play on one and use that pause button on the second. And this was the limitation. This is what taught me how to edit in my head, is that if I shot a bunch of footage, I needed to shoot very little footage so I could find it. Sometimes you shoot out of order. So when I cut it, I have to cut in linear order, because if you push pause, it's a nice clean cut, but it only holds for 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes before the machine shuts off. So you got to find your next shot within 5 minutes and do that. Otherwise, if you have to start the machine over, it added all these color bars and it would be all screwed up. So I'd have to sit there and not move for like all day while I cut, knowing what the next shot was. And once I had it cut, I would then add some sound effects to it. Remember, because I have the audio dub function. But now if I want to add music, I take that tape, which has 2 tracks now, into the first deck and put it into the VCR again, one generation of loss, but I have a little cassette tape player with the music, and I do a Y splitter so I can add the music and
Nice.
right? Just like
Yeah.
that. That's like
Brilliant.
being resourceful with what you have. And I made award-winning short films that way on video. There were some festivals that would allow video, not many, but they would always win. And they were always funny as I stumbled upon Spy Kids that way. Like I wanted to make these action movies in my backyard. But when you're a teenager, you don't know anybody who can come be your action star. And if you just bring your high school buddies, well, they just look like high school kids. So I use my little brothers and sisters because I'm one of 10, third oldest.
Mhm.
They're just sitting around watching cartoons anyway. And I made them the action stars just to like learn. And I found those things would be a winning formula. They'd win every festival I'd send them to. So Bedhead was my first time using a film camera. It was a wind-up film camera I got in film school. I went to film school for one semester and realized I already knew more than the film students because they taught you a whole other outdated way of doing it. So I thought I'm just going to use that film camera to make a low budget movie, a definitive film version that I can send to all film festivals of these action kids, which is a precursor to Spy Kids. Bedhead's a precursor to Spy Kids.
And we should say that Bedhead was an award-winning short film that was probably a big sort of leap for you that probably opened the door to you to then make El
It
Mariachi and
opened
so
up
on.
your brain,
mental door.
especially because those video festivals, I would win like a trip to New York and a director's chair with the video shorts that I would put in festivals. But I knew the film festival, if I could get into film festivals, I could send that all over the world. So I made that little short film, sent it, and it was winning all the festivals. And I thought, wow, I made that with a wind-up camera, film camera, filming just one take each shot, just no slates, because I'm the editor. And that cost $800 and it was 8 minutes. I bet I can make an 80-minute movie for $8,000 if I'd use the same method. So that movie I did 6 months later, I was making Mariachi because it opened up my mind to that I could try it in a feature.
Can we actually pause on that? Because I think Bedhead has a really great, really unique story, shot in a really unique way. I think what I'm trying to say is like it's very important to write the right script, write the right story.
So let me tell you the trick to that.
Yeah.
And Mariachi's the same way. And this really helped people. Like even Kevin Smith from Clerks said, wow, Robert said, when Mariachi was a success, I talked about how I did it. I said, I looked at everything I had. What do I have? Well, we have a pit bull, we have a turtle, we've got a bus that Carlos's cousin owns. His brother-in-law has a bar, and he owns a ranch. So the bad guy lives at the ranch. The fight scene's going to be in the bar. He's going to hit a bus at one point. The girl's going to have a dog, and a turtle's going to cross the road. It gives you all this production value. So you write backwards.
Mhm.
So for Bedhead, I even did that with a camera. So I've been shooting video all this time. And one thing I wished I could do on video, I never could, was slow motion or stop motion even. So when I got that crappy World War II camera they gave us in film school, I mean,
Yeah.
I was so pissed. Like, this is the camera I've been trying to get my hands on. I could have bought this for $50 at a pawn shop.
Mhm.
Old Bill and Hal wind up. You couldn't even see through the lens. You were seeing through an approximation of the lens. But you could shoot slow motion. I could do reverse photography if I filmed upside down.
Mhm.
I could do, because if I do a fast push into her, I'll never get the focus in right. So I started with it in focus, went back, pulled backwards on a chair, and then reversed it, flipped it, and now it looks like it stops on a dime in focus.
Like,
Right?
the number of times I've seen you shoot backwards is incredible. Like to achieve a certain feeling, a certain experience, a uh certain effect, sometimes shooting in reverse plus the sound effect layer, you can create this reality that's surreal
Yeah.
that then results in the story that you wanted. Like you have you have to be functioning in some kind of different space-time continuum. You
Well,
have to
it kind
morph
of, you
time.
start putting it together, right? So
Yeah.
I've got this different camera. Well, what now? I go like, well, no, I don't want to shoot the same kind of movie. If I got a camera now that can do that, I can do stop motion. So that's why there's an animated title sequence at the beginning. Because I go, wow, I'm a cartoonist. If I set the camera up here, I can slow it down enough. It's not a frame by frame, but if I get it down to like 2 frames a second, I can just tap it and it'll maybe get 1 frame off. So I did 300 drawings by hand for that opening title sequence.
Holy shit, that was you doing it by hand.
Yeah. So you watch that And this is a throwaway title sequence, but I really want this thing to win awards.
Okay, hold on a second.
You watch
How
it
long
again.
did that take to draw? That's a lot. That
I
seems like a
remember
lot of work.
I drew it over. Well, I was a daily cartoonist by then, so I was pretty fast. But still, that's why it's only penciled. It's not inked, but it looks great. I mean, it's the camera's going around and all kinds of crazy stuff, but it's just all faked by paper. It took me all night to shoot it because I remember I walked into the film school the next day, like all sleepy, and I told one of the fellow students, wow, I was up all night doing this animated title sequence, and he went, "Why are you putting so much work in this? They're not gonna grade you any differently." And I was like, "Grades? Get an A walking in here. I'm trying to get out of this town. I'm not doing this for fucking grades. I want people to see what I can do now, and I want to see what I can do now with this." So a lot of the story came from the limitations, or actually the freedoms, of that camera. I couldn't have done that story on video. So when I saw, wow, okay, I can do reverse photography, I can do stop motion, she has to have special powers. Because if she has special powers, then I can really milk this camera for all it can get. There's one of my shots I love the most is where she's standing there and the chair, she makes a chair come all the way up to her and it goes all the way up to her face. Now, if I did it normally, where would I even put the strings for that?
Right, to pull the chair. Yeah.
So I start here with the camera upside down. I have the strings in the back because you're not going to be looking at the back. And as it goes back, you pull it back. And then when you reverse it, it goes, and it looks so good. You can't spot the string. If you look close, you see the strings are in the back, but your eye's not looking there.
That's
So I did
brilliant.
stuff like that. And then just her like getting the hose. And then I just do stop motion for the hose turning on, the faucet. That's why I gave her special powers and it made the story better. So sometimes the limitations you have with equipment or location, you can use it to make, take chicken shit, turn it into chicken salad. Take this camera that everyone was like, "What's this?" And I go, "I can do so much with this." But I tell you, today I look at that camera, I can't believe I ever made a movie with that thing. It's so ridiculously primitive. I'm just like, how did I even think I could get anything done with this and it even expose? And Mariachi the same way. You have to think about it. I shot Mariachi on film and with a borrowed 16 millimeter camera. I didn't know how to use it. I called up a place in Dallas that rented that kind of equipment and I said, "I have an Airy 16S here. Two motor looking things. One has a 24 and one has a bunch of numbers. Oh, that's a variable speed motor. That means you can do different speed. I can shoot slow motion with this." Yeah. Oh, wow. "Do you have a torque motor?" "I don't know. What is that?" He goes, "Is there something on the side of the magazine? Like it does yeah." Now you can just look up on YouTube and it shows you how to use it. I was doing it by phone that way. And then I went and shot the movie right then. And I didn't know if any of it was exposing or if the film camera was working until I finished the whole movie. So imagine you have to go down to Mexico, shoot for 2 weeks, come back, send it off to a lab. You want to talk about being nervous. Just hoping something exposed. And when I saw it come back and the tape, they transferred it to a tape so I could edit it, deck to deck again. I was so relieved. Some things didn't come out, but I can cut around that. It's like, oh yeah, because I'm doing everything. Like right here, you're doing everything. Imagine if you forgot to stop down and it's open all the way and one shot is blown out. I'd have stuff like that because I'm moving fast and I'm doing it all myself.
Wait a minute. You shot El Mariachi, the whole thing, without knowing if some of the footage is damaged, wrong?
Yeah, without any of it. That's why I only did one take. So my idea was this.
How gangster is that?
Well,
wow.
It was a test film.
Right.
I thought it was going to be a test film.
Yeah.
It's the only movie in history ever made where the filmmaker did not think anyone would see it and expect it and even set it up that way. I mean, why would I make an action movie for the Spanish market called basically The Guitar Player? Promises no action. No one's going to watch it. But I thought if someone actually picks it up and has the balls to watch this thing, they're going to be surprised I put a lot of action in. It was just to learn from. I just needed to make it for as little as possible, see how much I could sell it for. If I could double my money, great, I can make another one and just get more practice. I was so intrigued by this idea because you've heard advice about screenwriting. I heard advice back then that I thought was ridiculous. It said, it's going to take you a long time to be a good screenwriter. So write 3 scripts and throw them away. The 4th script will be the good one. I was like, it's so hard to write a script. Who's going to write 3 full scripts knowing they throw them away? Wouldn't it be better if you write 3 scripts and then shoot each one and be the cameraman, be the sound guy, be everything? Because that way you're learning not just writing, you're learning how to make a movie. So that was my idea. I'm going to make 3 of these, hide it on Spanish video, but make money back. That's like my own film school paying me to learn. So the first one, I thought, let me just shoot it one take each, because my friend Carlos lives in Mexico. If we shoot 2 takes, most of the cost is to film. I've just doubled my budget. So let me just shoot one take. Some of it's going to not come out, but I'm not going to know what. I'm not going to shoot a safety one. That doubles my, let me see. Some things might come out. I expected like 70% of it to maybe be okay, but 30% I might have to come reshoot, which is fine. I just drive back there and then I just reshoot just those shots, right? So I just went, let's shoot. We stop, we come back, then I send it off to develop, because we're shooting 2 weeks consecutively to get film shipped back and forth from Mexico to see if it came out. You just couldn't do it. I just had to, double down on it, do it. One take, everything. I remember one time I was telling the actor, man, I told you to run through that shot. And he goes, oh, let me do it again. No, one take, dude. Just think about it next time. Do what I say. I didn't think anyone was going to see it.
Yeah.
And because you don't think anyone's going to see it, you end up doing something remarkable, which is, well, I'm just going to make something for myself. Because if I was making a movie that was going to go to Sundance, I wouldn't have made that movie. I would have thought, okay, I got to get serious. But because I made this movie that was just entertaining myself, like Bedhead, it entertained audiences. So that naivete is really important when you're starting out, or at any point in your life. Be naive about what things gonna, and just do something for yourself. That taught me a very valuable lesson, because I didn't want anybody to see it. I just thought, one take, one take. When I got back home, a bunch of stuff didn't come out, but I'm like, I'm not going back to Mexico. I'll figure out a way to edit around it and make the movie shorter. And that's just going to be the movie. And then that's the one that won Sundance.
That was your first feature film. That's the one you made for $7,000. You mentioned your friend Carlos as the star of the movie.
Yeah.
Everything one take. And, I highly recommend people go back and watch that movie. It's just an incredible movie. It's fun, and it's an action film, moves really fast.
Yeah.
The story is really interesting, so the script is really interesting. All the actors, you could tell they all kind of stepped up and played their own
They
role
weren't
in this
actors.
chaos. That's
They were
right.
just friends of ours, which is why, and because, and this was the magic of not having a crew. They didn't feel like they were making a movie. It's like this, we're just here.
Yeah.
Me with my one camera. In fact, the gal, Carlos said, I had this one girl, I forgot, she's in town. Maybe she would work, because we tried to get a soap star and she backed out. So we got this gal over. She goes, but I don't know how to act. And I said, here, let's watch. I want to show you some on Mexican TV. A telenovela was on, and you see someone, all overacting. I said, that's acting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to do that. I want you to just talk like you're talking normal.
Wait. The love interest, the woman in that, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's amazing. Because I got a video of her. I said, I want you to just do this one line. Pretend like you're just talking to your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I showed her the video. That was cool, because I couldn't show her the film because we have to develop it. But I showed her a video test of herself doing it. And she saw herself doing it. She suddenly had the confidence. We went through her closet. This red dress you can wear, and that, and everyone just brought their own clothes.
She really had like a sexuality, a tension, like a romantic tension that was real. It was in part a great love story. That, I mean, as ridiculous as it is to say.
Yeah.
And in part like a dramatic love story.
Yeah. The idea was that, I thought a guitar player, originally what I wanted to do was like Road Warrior. I said, I want a guy with a guitar case full of weapons going from town to town like Road Warrior. But I don't have enough money for the first one to do that. That'll be the second movie I do. How about we do a Genesis story? How he became that guy. So let's do Mad Max, basically. How he becomes that guy. So maybe he is a guitar player. So that you start writing it out. I was going to show you my writing method. I write on index cards, and I carry one of these, a little packet of index cards. I keep one always in my bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I smile when I run across it, because I go, I've made $1 million with one of these before. It's like, this is the key to your next success, cards. Because, when you go see a therapist, you're not going to them for the answers. You're going to them for the questions.
Mm-hmm.
You got the answers inside. What you don't have are the questions. A lot of times we ask ourselves very unempowering questions, like, why am I such a loser? I can think of 10 answers right now. But if you go, what 3 things can I do today that'll not just change my life, but everyone around me? Take steps to that. Take out your cards and start writing them down.
Mm-hmm.
You won't come up with 3. You'll come up with 15. I'm like, wow, because you're asking yourself, and you'll see him. So when I was doing that movie, I thought, okay, he's a guitar player for real. And he gets mixed up with the guy with a case. So how about he walks into a bar? So I write down that he walks into a bar. bar trying to get work. Bartender looks at him. We don't hire mariachis. Get the hell out of here. So he leaves. After that whole scene explaining who he is and what his story is, then the shooter comes in with a guitar case full of weapons. He's also dressed in black, and he shoots the place up. Now, if that was a short film, that's how you'd start a short film. But this is a feature movie, so shit, I got to figure out how to tell a feature. I'm going to need a few more cards before that. So I'm going to need, well, who's this bad guy? How about he's in jail? I'd read a story, this crazy story about a guy who was in jail in Mexico, and he was running his drug business from the jail as protection. He could walk out any time, but it was to have the cops be his enforcers, basically. So introduce that guy. He's in jail making phone calls. And someone puts a hit on him. So we have action right away. There's a hit on him. He kills those guys because it's his operation. He's not in jail. All the cops are working for him. And he tells that guy on the phone, the main bad guy, I'm going to come to town. I'm going to kill all your guys and I'm going to come kill you. So then he gets in his truck and you see them bring him a guitar case full of weapons. He passes the mariachi on the way to town. And now it's his story. The baton gets turned to Mariachi. Mariachi's doing a voiceover. It's easy to shoot. We can do the voice later. We don't have to sing sound. There was even a scene when he walks into town where we saw these coconuts, a guy cutting coconuts. And we go, oh, let's go film over there. So we filmed the guy giving him a coconut with a straw in it. And he walks out. I'm like, shit, man, you forgot to pay the guy. Well, let's shoot that. No, one take. I'll just put in the voiceover that they give away free coconuts in this town. And for years, people in other countries would go, they really give away free coconuts? No, it's because we forgot to show him pain, little happy accidents. So now look, you're already building a movie. So it's like, now he goes in the bar. Now he's mixed up. And the bad guy says, find the guy with a guitar case full of weapons. Then he goes and meets the girl. So you just start your movie visually, you can start seeing your movie. And I've used this for business things. I've used this for ideas, for manifesting stuff.
It's brilliant. Are you doing this alone usually? Or are you brainstorming?
It's coming and it comes so fast. It's like free association. Well, maybe I have the ending. Oh, I know I want his hand shot. He's going to get his hand shot because he's a musician and those ballads are always really tragic. So the girl has to die. The girl has to die because if it's going to be a tragic song for his songbook, each movie should be like a tragedy. That's going to be over here. Now you got the ending, and then your brain starts filling in the rest because you're asking yourself these prompt questions that you already have answers for from a past life, from a vision you had that you don't even know are there. This prompts it.
It's kind of a puzzle that you're figuring out. What happens if you get stuck? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, some aspect of the structure doesn't make sense.
Just leave a hole there. You leave it all there. You won't. Yeah, you just start writing in the ones you do know.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I know at some point she's going to betray him. Or he's going to think she does. She betrays him. Okay, that's in the middle somewhere. The other ones will come.
Yeah, those are all like crossroads for the story. Doesn't that, like, how do you know she has to die? Can you change your mind about that?
I can, yeah. But for now, I felt like if I really want, the story's telling me now what it is. I didn't know I was going to make a Genesis story. I wanted to do the Road Warrior guy. But the Road Warrior, he lost his family. So really, to propel him to become a guy who has a guitar case full of weapons, he has to lose everything. So he needs a ghost. So this is a Genesis story of a character. Well, look, Bruce Wayne lost his parents. You could say, well, does the parents have to die? Well, no, but it's not going to propel him like it's not going to drive him like that thing. So it's just coming to me. So this is my other trick. And this is the main thing you got to learn about. If you take any away, this isn't me doing it. I totally believe that because when you start doing this, you go, where are these answers coming from? I'm asking the right question, but why? How come the answers just keep coming like this? I believe because I do so many different jobs. I've learned this over years. I remember when it was in 2002, I was like, how is it that I'm the production designer, the composer, which I don't even know how to read or write music, and I'm writing orchestral score, and I'm doing the editing, and I'm doing the cinematography. I haven't been trained for any of these. I never went to school for these specifically. Must be something about creativity. So I went on Amazon. It's 2002. I look up creative books. Anything that has creativity in the title, I just ordered it. And I've got a bunch of books on creativity. And I was reading them through. One of them was like really speaking to me. Yeah, that's it. That's the process. And then it says gels and mediums. And I'm like, oh, this is a book specifically about painting. But it applies to music editing, cinematography, writing, it's all the same. So that's when I realized that creativity is 90% of any of those jobs. The technical part of setting up the cameras, of writing a script in format, or reading or writing music, that's 10% of that. How many musicians, don't read or write music and they're fantastic? It's because 90% what they do is creative. Now, I believe that that same person, even if they only do music, could literally jump from job to job creatively and do a superior job than most technicians.
And there's also something to say there about the learning the technical aspects of an art. You collide with the experts. What happens is I've experienced this a lot with with using cameras and so on. I don't know shit about cameras, and then you roll in, and then there's all the experts almost talking down to you,
Yeah.
and telling you how things are supposed to be. Everything is wrong. I talked to somebody about like soundproofing a room, and they gave me prices that are insane, and like the amount of effort is insane, and the
Well, yeah, they're
geometry,
selling you something.
the dynamics of this room are all wrong. I'm like, why can't I just fucking hang up some curtains? Like what? It seems like that kills most of the echo. Like I don't understand. And they're like, no, this is all wrong. The corners are gonna have some. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna see what it sounds like. A and B. Okay, here's audio with curtains. Here's audio without curtains. Seems like this is fine. Let's move on to the next thing.
That's it.
I think that when you say creativity, some of that is being a rebel, like not listening to the experts.
Yeah, well, you're going on your creativity, which is what is that? That's like do you consider yourself a creative person? I think you play guitar.
Yeah, guitar, piano, yeah,
You play
everything.
piano, okay, but would you call yourself a creative person?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. You should.
I think that's a positive
I would just
way
suggest
to
to
phrase it.
anybody is
Yeah,
just own it, and
yeah.
just say, I like when I do so many different jobs, it sounds crazy when they would introduce me. Hey, Robert Rodriguez, he does this, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I get tired just hearing that list. But when I think about it, there's really only one thing I do, and I live a creative life. And when you live a creative life, that means anything that has to do with creativity, whether it's filming or piano or guitar or sculpting, or you can do it. You can take it on and do it because it teaches you more about your main job. I become a better director by doing all those jobs. Because when somebody just does one job, they barely know that job. You have to do more to learn about creativity. And this is the main thing I learned was that I'm writing music, for an orchestra. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Why is that coming out? I don't feel like I'm doing it. I feel like I picked up the pen. I feel like I had the idea to do the cards. But then when everything just starts coming out so quickly, like that's how fast I wrote that movie.
Mhm.
I go, I really feel like something else is taking over. So this is what my belief is. And because I hear it in different realms. Like you ask Keith Richards, how do you come up with these riffs? He goes, I don't. They're floating around the sky and I pull them out first. Yes, I asked, Jimmy Vaughn, how do you play guitar? Those solos. He goes, it's like a radio. Once you get it tuned just right, you can't even believe what's coming through. So I call it the creative spirit. There's a spirit assigned to all of us. It's creative that doesn't have hands. It needs you to pick up the pen, pull out the cards. And then when you start getting in a flow and you're like, whoa, it's writing. That's that. And if you can have that mindset, you take your ego out of it and go, all I need to do is be a good conduit for this thing, be a good pipe, and it's going to come through. So you don't ever have to get hung up on that question you had. Well, what happens when you can't come up? It wasn't me to begin with. If it's not coming out, it's because I'm blocking it.
Mhm.
And if I were to do this and I'm flowing, and if I were to say, wow, I just wrote 10 cards. I don't know if I can write more. How did I do that? You just shut the pipe because your ego got in the way. You just clogged it because it gets pissed off that you think it's you. It's not you. It's like, dude, just open up, let me through, pick up the fucking pen. And I learned this in when I was 19, when I had a daily cartoon strip. I had to draw a comic strip every day to get paid. And I would be like, I'd have to draw like one drawing, draw another drawing. Then it's like, okay, these kind of go together. It was a process. And sometimes I just felt like I wish I could just envision it, sit back. I'm going to try that method. I went home and I would sit back and just try to get in my sofa, try the sofa method. I'm just going to try to picture the comic strip. And then as soon as I got one that I think is funny, then I'll just go draw that, right? Be done in a half hour. Why waste 3 hours? I'd sit there and sit there and sit there. My deadline would be coming up, got like 30 minutes. I'm like, oh shit, got to go sit and draw it out. And it's like, oh, okay, I got this drawing. It's kind of, oh, this kind of goes with that. If I make another drawing, I have my strip. That's the only way to do it. If you don't get up, the creative spirit ain't going to come visit you if you're doing this.
Yeah.
It needs your hands. and it's not going to reward you for sitting there waiting for it. You have to jump in and do it. And people, when they say, oh, well, I'm not ready, how pissed off is that spirit now? It's waiting for you to feel like you're ready. It's not you. Just start doing the action and it's going to come through. And the ideas will come and the answers will come because it's not you. And if you can take your ego out of like, you'll be blessed with this never ending flow of ideas because don't take ownership for it and know that if it's not coming out, it's because you're just clogging it because this thing's got endless ideas.
And you give that same advice for making films, which is, don't plan, if you want to be a filmmaker, don't plan like the movie, don't think about making the movie, just go in and start.
Yeah, I would meet a lot of people who introduce themselves as aspiring. I'm an aspiring filmmaker, and I wonder what would you tell an aspiring filmmaker? I'd say, stop aspiring. Because if you call yourself that, you are that. And you're always going to feel like you're not ready. And you just jump in before you're ready. You don't feel like you're ready I didn't feel like I was ready to do Mariachi till I was probably in my last few days of filming. You became ready as you went. You didn't know how all that stuff, I couldn't have figured all that out in advance. When my kids worked with me on a project that we did similar, by the end, they realized, they did an interview with my son who, after just 2 weeks of doing one of those projects, you're a different person. He's suddenly waxing philosophical about the creative process and going, I never knew how my dad did mariachi until we did this project together. And I realized he didn't know either. He didn't know how he was going to do it. He figured it out day by day. Every challenge that got thrown at him, he had to figure it out. And that's the biggest lesson. Most people never start. And that's the biggest thing. Don't wait till you're ready or that'll be on your tombstone. Here lies so-and-so. He was never ready. And you don't want to be that guy. Jump in. No, it's not you. You just got to be the hands. And that relieves a lot of pressure from you because then you don't have to ever have to do anything, really. You just have to be the hands.
Can you talk through some of the many hats you wore with the El Mariachi? That's an interesting case study, and you've done the same thing over and over in completely different, innovative ways in all the films. But El Mariachi is such a radical leap for you.
That was crazy. That thing's held together with scotch tape and rubber bands because of the camera I borrowed.
You directed, you did cinematography, you did the sound.
It's better to just say what I didn't do. I didn't act in front of the camera. Everything else I did.
Yeah.
Everything else, I was the whole crew.
Yeah.
It's just like you're doing here, except you've got sound recording right onto the cameras, right? Or do you have it to the system?
Separately, but it's synced. I mean,
but
all the modern technology.
So I didn't have sync camera.
Yep.
So I had a camera that.
Yep.
It was not a sync camera. And the thing was, it was so loud, I would have had to blimp the shit out of it, which I didn't have a blimp. And then I would have needed a sound guy.
Just to be clear, so people don't understand this, you're shooting basically no sound.
Because the camera sounds like this. It sounds like all your money is going away, first of all. So I would go like this. Action. You'd start running.
Yeah.
And I shoot my edit.
Yep.
Like they're still running, like I'm only using this part. When there's no slates, there's guys holding up their fingers at the beginning of roll, like this is reel 7 for just a few frames. So I know which reel it is. And then that 10 minutes of film is just one shot after another. And I use almost every frame of those shots because I was cutting in the camera. Now, after I shoot, like, let's say, tell me your name.
Lex.
What's your last name?
Fridman.
Where do you live?
Austin, Texas.
I would do the whole scene, then I would get the sound, bring the mic in close like that. Say it again.
Lex Fridman, Austin, Texas.
That'll probably sync. Now, if you were going on and on, there's a place where it'd go out of sync. I hate rubbery lips. So I would cut away to the dog or to the knife or to the girl. And then I cut back when you were back in sync. And since these were non-actors, they say everything the same way each time. They would say their line just like they weren't performing it to where they didn't remember how they performed the take before. They were just talking in their own rhythm. So a lot of the times anytime you see anyone on camera talking, they're in sync with themselves. And as soon as it cuts away, they're out of sync. And it created this really fast cutting style that I probably wouldn't have had on such a low budget movie, but it was the only way to keep things in sync. So when I would shoot 2 people talking, I would make sure I'd film a couple of shots of like the dog or a stuffed cat or something, just so I'd have something to cut away to get them back in sync.
That's so brilliant.
I call it, it's just resourceful. It's just being very resourceful.
And you allow it to get maybe a little bit out of sync sometimes?
I didn't allow it, but I would let it if I just didn't have a way to cut away.
Right.
And I would try to sync it as best I could.
But we as the audience Like, do you understand where the threshold is where
Yeah.
we notice something?
Yeah.
It
Because
seems like you can get away with a lot.
you can get away with, I'm just particular about that.
Okay.
I just don't like seeing a dub movie where it just feels canned. It makes you not believe in it anymore. So I just
Got
cut
it.
away where the
Got
lips
it.
are just way off. I just didn't want any of that. I just felt like I wanted it to just be believable, and they could be really believable if they were in sync. But I didn't shoot 2 takes of film or even 2 takes of audio, but just 1 take. We just went to and what's cool is that because I just had him go through the whole scene again. So I would go ahead and record them like grabbing the bottle or any action they did, opening the suitcase. I'd have all the sound effects too. I just had to sync it by hand. That's a lot of work for me, but I got great sound that way. Because if I had had a sync camera, the mic would have been so far, we would have had to go get new sound effects. But because the camera is off, I could record everything close up. So there was some blessing to that.
You and Quentin Tarantino had a great conversation about a lot of topics, but one of them is how to bring out the best in the actors. Like, what in that El Mariachi, how do you bring out the best in these non-actors? And then maybe what's the thread that connects to your future work too?
What really helped for those non-actors was that they just look across and it's me filming. They didn't feel like they're being so natural. And like the guy who played the bad guy, I met him in the research hospital where I was sold my body to science. He was my bunkmate. And I said, dude, you look kind of like Rutger Hauer. And then it's like, we saw another movie. Man, you look like James Spader. Shit, you should be the bad guy in my movie. And it'd be cool to have you as the bad guy. He goes, but I don't speak Spanish. Well, that's okay. All right. And I'll teach you phonetically. And you're going to wear sunglasses. And if you look close, he's holding the lines here and he's looking at the lines like that and just smiling. So can't believe he's getting away with this. He's smiling and he's got the sunglasses on.
I read that somewhere in the pool. There's like a scene in the
In the
pool.
pool, he's like
Yeah,
this. Oh, no, no, no,
with
no,
the
no.
sunglasses
Yeah,
on. With an oh
yeah.
man,
But
it's
he
so
was doing
ghetto.
it phonetically. And I tell you what, he was so great, that guy, right?
Yeah,
When
he's
we do
great.
Desperado, I brought him back. Didn't even have to do any dialogue. Watch that movie when he shows up in the opening scene when Desperado, he's playing the guitar in the opening with the credits. To tie it into the first movie, he shows up again. And all he has to do is light a cigarette. And you see this.
Yeah,
Because he's so nervous. Because now there's a crew behind me. Now it's real. Before it was just me and him, and it didn't feel like a real movie. So everyone gave a great performance. So how do you recreate that later on a big movie? Is just building a rapport, making a safe zone for your actors. Quentin once told me, sometimes being, we're talking about directing. He goes, yeah, sometimes being a great director is just being a great audience. Being a great audience because you're taking the place of the audience for the actor. They try something. And if you're enjoying it, they know that the audience is going to enjoy it. Or if makes you cry, so sometimes you don't have to tell them a lot sometimes. And if you do have something very specific to tell them, they usually, go with it. But I always just like to see what they do. And a lot of times they just are in the zone because again, they're getting that flow too. You create the right environment, everyone's getting this inspiration that's all tied together that you never could have directed. It's just like you just create that space where we're all going to be open to it and it's going to drop in our lap and I'm going to point it out when it does because you may not feel like you know how to play this role yet, but I say not knowing is the other half of the battle and the more important part. That's the part we're going to discover. And when it happens, I'm going to point it out and it's going to be like magic. And we're just going to go, okay, we're accepting it and we do it. And it gets people in that kind of headspace. And then we're all open to it, to where the character's supposed to go, what it's supposed to sound like, instead of me being very, manipulative to get a certain thing. I don't know. It's just whatever feels good.
yeah. There's such an intimate connection between the actor and the director. I've seen some of the behind the scenes footage with you.
Mm-hmm.
You are just a fan enjoying the scene when it's done well.
Yeah.
But I think there's an aspect, if I were to put myself in the headspace of the actor, they want you as the audience, like, to earn that happiness,
Oh
because
yeah.
when a
You're a
director
performer.
approves,
Yeah, well, you're a performer, and and there's no other, it's not like a live show where you get the approval of the audience, and you're like, oh wow, they like that joke. Let me do more. Really, the director is it, and a lot of times the director's way behind a monitor somewhere. That's why I still like to operate the camera because when I'm operating the camera, it's like this. We could have 100 people here, we wouldn't know because they go away. It's just us. They just disappear when it's the camera guy is the director, and we're going, let's do that again. Let's do that again. There's a shot in. I'm lighting sensitive myself. I have my crew setting lights and I have this great shot of Clive Owen where he's holding down Benicio's head in the toilet. Benicio's not there; it's just a close up of him at this point. And I'm practicing my shot. I'm zooming in slow in his face, and people are still walking behind him on the green screen, setting lights. And I'm like, I'm rolling. We're ready to go. We're getting this. I can already tell. We're already in the moment. What you're doing right now, just keep holding that look. Now, one jolt, like he's starting to fight back, but you don't even flinch. Cut. Okay. Never mind, you guys can stop moving that shit. We already got the
Holy
shot.
shit.
Yeah, it's like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like that because you're so
That's a
locked in.
great scene, by the way.
It's great, right? And it was,
Holy
and
shit.
you can feel it. It's like, if I wait for these guys, this moment will be gone. And then another one was Mickey Rourke. He had so much freaking dialogue. He had just done this whole big dialogue scene. He had another one that said, let's go ahead and start with a wide shot where the two actors, if I'm the camera, Mickey and Elijah are here. Let's get a 2-shot and we'll come around on Mickey close up. We'll turn Mickey around for the close up. Let's start with the wide thing, get used to the lines, and most of it's going to be sold in the close up. We sit down, Mickey starts delivering the take. I'm like, hold on a second. I brought my camera over, zoom in, just adjust that light real quick because I'm the DP. Because if I had another director of photography, they'd be like, oh, no, we have to relight and all this stuff. It's like, no, let's just do this, let's go. He's doing it right now. And I go, and that performance is just right then. And so you can feel that when you're operating and you're the camera guy and you're the DP. It's like high-tech guerrilla filmmaking. Yeah, we're on a green screen, but it's like all the crew needs are marching orders. Just put a light back there, hitting them harder. Like this is a 5K, make that a 10K. It's got to be stronger. They don't need to know that I'm going to make that a lamppost later. They just need marching orders for the moment. So I can just kind of tell people, do this, do that. And then I know what I can accomplish with the actor, and then everything else falls into place later because I'm going to put all that in later. Things, once you know how to do a lot of jobs like that, you can just move at the speed of thought, which is where the actors love being creatively. Because nobody knew what green screen was back then. They're like, what is this again? So I explained it as, well, it's kind of like doing theater, but instead of a black curtain behind you with a prop, it'll be a green curtain. And you might just have a cup or just a steering wheel, but it's just you and the other actors, just like this. And everything else will be painted in later. We're just talking. We're locked in. If we stay locked in, we'll look great when there's rain coming down and we're on a ship later. but it comes down to this, right? And it was so fun to do those kind of movies.
So to this day, you try to be close to the action, connected with the actor that's performing.
Because it's like a dance. You end up.
That's so good to hear.
I remember on Dusk Till Dawn, Michael Parks in the opening scene, he's talking about the two guys that are running around killing people just before he gets shot. And I just start doing this slow zoom. I remember it was take 8. Start doing this slow zoom on him. And I'm like, I hope I get all the way up to where it stops zooming when he finishes that speech, because there's no set way. And I don't know how he's going to say it, but you're just locked almost telepathically. And as he's delivered, there's no edits. He's just going, yeah, they killed 4 Rangers. 2 hostages. It's just like, wow. And you're just so pulled in. I'm just like, oh my God. And then it stopped. It's like I ran out of zoom right as he finished that speech.
So how can a director, because there's a lot of great directors that stay in the
bag. I know it's hard.
Back of the battlefield.
They just trust that whatever they get from their crew, you accept it. Just like, you would get a take to them.
There's so much intimacy to that connection.
I like that intimate connection because I could not be behind a monitor. Even if I had communication with my cameraman, okay, now start zooming in. You're not going to know. You have to feel it. You have to be in there. It's like a dance. It's like trying to do a dance with a partner and you're across the room. It's like, no, you got to be there up close, feeling the energy. And it's the creative spirits whispering to you both. It's not your own idea. You're capturing a moment that's magic. And there's true magic that happens on a set. And that's what brings you back. Because I didn't direct that. And they didn't act that. That came through us, and we just had the cameras rolling, and we captured a ghost.
It's like, just like you said, though, you had the pen in hand, and you were there.
It's like that.
Came
It's
through.
crazy. It's crazy.